All right, so there's a really significant change coming to Canada's law on medical assistance in dying, and it's all about one of the most complex topics out there, mental illness. What we're going to do here is walk through a set of documents that make a pretty urgent case against this expansion, and we'll do it step by step.
So, the documents we're looking at really frame the entire debate around one single fundamental question. And it's this: can you really predict the course of a mental illness? Can anyone say with absolute certainty that it's incurable? This is the central challenge that we're going to be exploring.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the arguments being made here, we've got to look at the specific legal change that's at the very heart of this whole thing. It's actually part of a law that passed back in 2021, but a really crucial piece of it was, well, it was put on hold.
And these documents point to this very specific date, March 27, 2027. That's when this provision is set to expand medical assistance in dying. You'll often see it called MAiD. That is, unless a new bill gets passed to stop it. So what's the actual change here? What's the big deal? Well, before, to be eligible for MAiD, you needed what the law calls a grievous and irremediable medical condition. And, that was pretty much understood to mean a physical one. This expansion, though, it would mean a person could be eligible for MAiD just on the basis of a mental illness. That's the key shift.
Okay, so with that context in mind, let's dive into the core arguments that these documents are presenting against this change. So the first big point they raise is all about one of the main requirements for MAiD, the idea that a person's illness is incurable. The sources are basically saying, hey, wait a minute. They argue that experts agree you can't really predict the path of a mental illness with any certainty. It's so difficult, maybe even impossible. Someone's condition could totally turn around with new treatments or the right support later on. And this quote right here, it really nails their next point, which is all about what they call vague and subjective wording. The documents are asking, okay, so how exactly is the law going to define a serious mental illness? I mean, will it be things like anxiety, depression, PTSD? They're arguing that if the definitions are just subjective and decided case by case, then there's really no universal protection for people.
And this leads right into another major concern they bring up. Think about it. A whole new category of eligibility is being added. But, and this is their point, there are no new specific safeguards being put in place for people whose only condition is a mental illness. Now, the documents highlight a really crucial difference here in how the law is set up. They point out that in Canada, the law says patients just have to be informed of their treatment options, okay? Just told about them. But then they contrast that with laws in places like Belgium and the Netherlands, where they say doctors are actually not allowed to go ahead with MAiD if there are still reasonable treatments the person hasn't tried yet. The argument here is that Canada's bar for protection is just lower.
And this next quote, wow, it really gets to the ethical heart of the argument being presented in these documents. It raises this deeply troubling concern about a system where, as they put it could actually be easier to get MAiD than it is to get access to good, long-term mental health care and other kinds of support to live.
Okay, so after laying out all of these concerns, the documents then shift gears and move toward a proposed solution. Let's see what they're putting on the table.
The solution they're pushing for is very, very specific. The sources are backing a private member's bill, which is called Bill C-218. And its whole purpose, its only purpose, really, is to get rid of that provision that would allow MAiD just for mental illness. Okay, now it's really important to understand that these documents aren't just for, informational purposes. Their main goal is stated right out in the open. They want to persuade people to take specific actions to support their cause. And this purpose is made crystal clear in a letter that's included from the organization's president. It's a direct appeal, literally asking for urgent help, and it lays out a really clear roadmap for how supporters can jump in and get involved. And here is that roadmap they lay out. The source provides a super clear 3-step plan. First, it asks supporters to pray. Second, it urges them to get in touch with their member of parliament, their MP, by calling, writing, or even meeting with them to ask for support for that Bill C-218. And third, it encourages them to just raise awareness. Simply tell a friend. So when you really boil it all down, the arguments in these documents leave us with a really profound question. It sits right at the intersection of law, medicine, and deeply personal experience. And the question is this: when suffering is so subjective, how can a law ever be truly objective? It's just a massively complex issue, and there are definitely no easy answers.